middle, you can just ping it in the chat, and then we'll be happy to take that up. And then we would love some feedback. So please let us know how the session went. So these are organization. Thank you so much, Piyush, for making this happen. I know this was he helped us a lot with all of these things, how to plan the content and everything. Thank you so much, Piyush, for that. And let's start. So hi, I'm Abhinaya. I've been an RPA developer since the starting of my career. It's been 5 years. And I've worked with tools like Automation Anywhere, Power Automate, and also Mulesoft RPA, majorly now Mulesoft RPA. And it's mostly been process mining and how to automate stuff, and mostly process automation. So I guess Composer is Composer and Mulesoft RPA are relatively new to the market compared to the other RPA tools. So I guess we will be able to give you new information and then some valuable nicks and knacks about this tool. So how many of you, any of you have worked with Mulesoft Composer before, or do have a general idea about it? And if you've worked with it, or maybe in your organization, they do have a Composer, but you've not yet got the, chance to work with it. Any of you like that? Okay, I guess that's a no. And I'll just start with what is a Mulesoft Composer. Mulesoft Composer is a tool which is mostly used for automation of data, process automation of data, process automation. This is a low code or a no code tool, to be honest, and it's mostly used with clicks and drag and drops instead of code. So this is a low code integration tool, I would say. When you want to integrate data from one system to another, transfer data, or you want to automate stuff, that's where Mulesoft Composer comes into place. So why this no code platform is user friendly and secure, and you can make it as a great choice for business purposes. So you're not a very a tech savvy developer with respect to coding, so Mulesoft Composer is your thing. That's when Mulesoft Composer comes into place. And why use Mulesoft Composer? What is you already have RPA, then why Composer? So you already have any point for integration, why use Composer? So in case of Composer, there's no code involved. It's a no code interface. You have clicks and drag and drops for everything. Next is you already have pre-built connectors in them. So like you need not have a specific connector. You not build something. You not have a connector built for it. You already have specific connectors for most of the business requirements and most of the applications you're using now. And transformation of data is easier. They are very simple tools and functions present to transform your data when you can get it from one system and put it into another. And in case of you can when you have a flow, or when you have data transfer from one system to another, or integrating data, they do provide real-time monitoring. Composer provides a real-time monitoring of how your data is being transferred, on how successfully it's being transferred, how much amount of data is being transferred, and all these things. And then it's scalable. So once you start with a very small integration and you then keep on building on top of it, that's scalable. And security, you have all your passwords, everything stored inside it, and then it's very secure. You have you have options to make secure connections of it. So that's why Mulesoft Composer that's why you'll have to use Mulesoft Composer. So this is a very, very basic introduction of how what Mulesoft Composer is, and then why use Mulesoft Composer. So for more relevant information, I've just given you a link of how what Composer is and Composer overview. So in Mulesoft Composer, the programs that we build are called flows. So that's how we call them, flows. So how do we make these flows? So I'll just give you a small example of how Mulesoft Composer looks before we go into this. So this is how a Mulesoft Composer looks, an overview. So this is my account of Mulesoft Composer. You do have all the flows which you create under the name here, the active status or not. I'll just let you know what activity status and everything is, and when last updated it, and who's the owner of it. And you can create a new flow. That's how you create a new program here. So there's two options available here. You can create a flow from scratch, or Mulesoft Composer does provide some templates which you can take up and then use them. So all these templates are present inside here. So on the left side, you see a lot of options available. So Salesforce, to ServiceNow, Jira, and NetSuite. I guess most of it, I mean, it's not a wide variety, I would say, but it's optimum to at least understand when you have to start with. So that's the template part. And then the usage summary here explains for your organization how many credits have been used. So the task running and the credits have been used. The flows represent the flows you have created under your name, and you have all the flows here. This is for help and support. So this is the overall look of how a composer looks. I'll just click on create a new flow here and create from scratch. So this is how a starting page of a composer would look. So this is how I just wanted to give you an overview of what you're talking about, a tool you're talking about. So I'll just go back to the slide so where we can, I'll just let you know how do you have to build a flow. So before you start building a flow, identify the integration requirement. So you have a client who comes to you and says that, okay, I need to integrate my Salesforce platform and then automate the data present inside it, and then you'll have to put data into it. So is this possible through integration? Is this an integration use case, or is it a thing which can be done by any point or composer? So if you want to go with a very low code and then hassle free and what I say, lot of things involved in thing, I would say you can just go with integration requirement using Composer. So you need to transform data in a what to say from, maybe it's in string, you have to convert it to number, as simple as that too. You can do all those things also. So first we'll have to identify the integration requirement. Second thing is choose the app to connect. So since Mulesoft Composer is a low code or a no code platform, you can't build your own code here. You'll have to choose it from the set of connectors. But I assure you that Mulesoft Composer has a multiple variety of lists, composer list, I mean connector list available, like Salesforce, Google Sheets, Slack, even you can connect to RPA here, and the list goes on. So I guess you'll have to choose which app to connect to and which app would actually satisfy your business requirement. Next is create the flow. So when you have to create the flow, so it involves drag and drop options to create your flow. So trigger, action, and target. These are three main parts of a composer flow. First part would be trigger. A trigger is where you want to start, how you want the flow to start. What is the condition by which your flow will start? So example, someone updates a record in Salesforce. You want that to be a trigger. Or you receive an email through Gmail. That's your trigger. Or a Google Sheet row is updated. That's your trigger. So you have to choose what is going to be the trigger. Or someone sends you a message over Slack. That can also be a trigger. So how the trigger is going to be, the action, and then what you're going to do after the trigger comes in. Okay, someone updates a record in Salesforce. The next thing what you're going to do is, when the record is updated, you want to know which record is updated. So what you want to know, so you have to get that record from Salesforce to see which record has been updated. So that's your action. So you get the record which has been updated. Okay, fine. What is the target? So what are you going to do after this? So the target of, after you get that record, you place it in the Google Sheet probably, saying that, okay, this record has been updated by this person today at this time. So this is maybe for your purpose of having a history of which have been appeared at what time. So what is the target? So you decide what is the trigger, the action, and the target. This is a very simple example, very basic example, I would say, but you can just go on with building on top of this. This is how you can just create the flow and then test the flow. So anywhere, anytime, you already know that after we design this and build it, it is important that we test the flow. So Mulesoft Composer does provide an option where you can just test the flow. It is not similar to going where you put it in a test environment, but a test is available for, like, example, you want to get all the records which match a particular name in Salesforce. It won't be able to retrieve you all the records which match the particular name, but it will able to be record, at least retrieve the first 5 instances of it. So it, for a test, it will be able to give you a very small sample. So that's how test works here. And in case you want to see the trigger, how it works. So only every time a record is updated, it won't be able to do it. For a time gap of 10 minutes, whatever records you update within that Salesforce field, or you send an email, all those things can come under test. So test is it'll mimic the production environment. It'll mimic how it will be into production, but in a very, sample kind of way or a small way. That's how test has been done. And then you can manually check the output there in the flow itself, where on the side you will receive all the values which you have done after testing. So you can just confirm to say that, okay, this is the way I wanted my flow to work, or this is the way it has to work. That's test the flow. And then so you've just tested the flow. You've seen that, okay, it seems that, okay, the flow is fine. It has been built in such a way that is going to satisfy the business requirements or my requirements. Then what you do is activate the flow. So once you activate the flow is gone live. It stays in the activated state until you deactivate it, or it encounters an error. So since we have worked with Composer here, we have also observed is that if one of the runs also go into error, the Composer still stays in the activated state for the next instance to come in, and it does not go into error state or deactivate until and unless we go and deactivate the flow there. Your Composer is going to stay in the activated state. So for testing, there are no credits consumed, but in the case of activated states, depending upon the task performed, there are going to be credits used by your Composer. And then the last one would be monitor your flow. So you can actively monitor your flow. Every single success or failure is going to come in your flow history. On why it is a failure, it will also give you a failure log. And also you can contact the support team based on that if you're not able to understand why the failure has been caused. So this is a general overview of how this Mulesoft Composer flow is. I'll just go back to this flow here. Here, if you can just see, this is, I was talking about the trigger. What should start the flow? So this is the trigger we're talking about. You can have a system event or a scheduler here. A scheduler is, interval of 15, 30, 45, 1/2, 5/2. This is a prefixed interval. You can't set the time here, but every 15 minutes, the Composer is going to trigger your flow. That's how this works. This is in case of a trigger. In case you will have to, I just did this step here, you'll have to choose a trigger based on a connector. So this is how you choose a system event. And these are all the options you have available to choose as a trigger. Example, you want Google Sheets. I'll just click on Google Sheets here. So I've just, you can add a new Google Sheet connection. I've already added mine. So mine's here. I just click on mine here. So what is the event that you should start the flow with? So every time a new row is created, or every time a new spreadsheet is created, or every time a row is updated. So these are the options that you have. So yeah, these are options with respect to what has been already programmed here. But I guess these options suffice most of the integrations you're going to build. So this is a small example of how the trigger works. So you can just see after you build the flow, I'll just put something, a new row here. After you fill the row, flow, you have test, activate, save, and other options here. So this test is the function where you start testing the flow. You give test and then wait for the test to complete. That's how you test the flow. And activate is where you activate the flow. That is similar to a prod run. And you wait for it. You wait for the process to run and then see the success and failure. You save the flow. That is very simple. There are two options available here as of now. You can export the flow and import it. Importing is a beta option now. It's a very new option where you can export the flow and import it. Export the flow is mostly, export flow was initially present there. It is mostly being used when you have to go contact a support person to see that something is wrong with your flow, Composer is not working. It's been mostly used for that. And help goes to the Mulesoft documentation. So this is with respect to the flow, how a Mulesoft Composer looks like and how you'll have to start creating your flows and everything. I'll just be back to the slide. So I've just given you the same screenshots here. This is a trigger, and also, so after you start this trigger, this is for the action step. In case of you finalized your trigger, example, let's take it's going to be a scheduler. Every 15 minutes, you're going to do something. Trigger the flow. So what does the next step have to be? What does the action step have to be? So for that option here, I'll just start with the scheduler here. I'm just going to keep it 15 minutes, the minimum. And this next step is going to be the action step. So now you want to trigger So if you just noticed, for the trigger part, when you had the connectors, there were a different amount of connectors. When you have an action part, you have a different amount of connectors, because some of the connectors cannot act as triggers, still cannot act as triggers. That's the reason you have a lot of other connected options when you have an action part. So for example, let's say Salesforce. I already have my connection put here, so I'm just going to click on it. Or you can just add a new Salesforce connection. Just give a name here. Probably I'll give Mulesoft demo. If it's a sandbox automation, please click on sandbox and then connect. It will go to your credential page. I've already saved mine, so you can just log in with a different username and it will automatically get connected. So this is how we connect connector from Salesforce. So once this connection is made, you'll be able to see all the connections you've made in a drop down like this. So here I select my connector here. This is to my developer account. So what is the action I want to do here? So every 15 minutes, what is the action I'm going to do here? Do I have to create a new record? Do I have to update a record? Get record, create and update record, delete record. So what do I have to do is the action here. So I create a new record. So what is the action object type? So you'll have to specify all the object, which object you want to create, under which object you want to create, and what are the parameters you want to create. And all this comes under your what to say, uh, business type and business integration which you want to build upon. So this is how an action part works. And if you had already seen, there are options like if else, for each, and error handling, and you can see a variable here. Variable is a very new introduction to Mulesoft RPA. Now it's just been probably 3 to 4 days since this update we have got. So now Mulesoft RPA has Mulesoft Composer has an option to update variables also here. And in case of if else and for each, this gives you to build and then make this flow as what is it, easier for you to do it. If else block, you want to have a condition here. So you put a Salesforce field here, action, you get the records, and probably you get account. So you get all the records in account. So you can just put here if inside the so you're now getting a list of accounts. You can just loop through the list of accounts here, and you can just put a specific condition here. See if the account ID is empty, then you'll have to say that account ID is empty. You can just put into a Google sheet saying that this particular account ID is empty, or this account ID pertaining to this particular name is empty. And you can do multiple options here. I'm just explaining to you what an if else and a for each loop does here. I guess most of you are aware of how a for each or an if else works. This is the basic things with respect to Mulesoft Composer. So I did have a set of flows designed for us to have a demo on. So these are the connectors which we have now available for Mulesoft Composer. Multiple connectors here, so every single connector is going to require authentication for you to connect into it, and then some of them require workspace accounts and not your personal accounts. And example, Slack, all of these things require, I know you require workspace account. Gmail requires a workspace account without multi-factor authentication. So all these things you can just explore, click on those connectors, maybe put in your credentials and see how they connect to. This is with respect to the connectors. And we'll just go with flows. I've thinking of showing you a demo. So first we'll see how to add records in Salesforce using Google Sheets. So I've already designed this flow, but since it's a demo, we'll make sure we go step by step and then create a new flow. So I'll just go to my overview flows here. I'll just create a new flow. I'll create a flow from scratch. So the first event, so we are going to create this flow is going to be in such a way that every time you update a sheet, I mean a row in the Google sheet, it's going to create a new account under with the details present in that sheet. So that's how it's going to go. So the trigger is going to be Google Sheets here. So I just put my Google Sheets here. So every time a new row is created, so you can just see that the spreadsheet, it gives you the list of spreadsheets in your Google Sheet account. So it's easy to just pick whichever sheet you want. I mean, whichever sheet you want. I have already created a sheet here called Salesforce input. I've just put account name, phone number, account number, shipping address. So these are the ones that you've tested with. I can just remove them here. So in sheet 2, I do have a list of random accounts which I'm going to create. So sheet 1 is empty as of now. So the Salesforce input is the sheet and the worksheet name is sheet 1. So I'm going to select the fields. So this gives you an option to select all the fields. Example, sometimes you want to do some integrations with respect to the row number or the sheet name. You can just select all these things, but for now it's not required. So I'm just not selecting them. I just give apply here. And the next thing is going to be every time a new record is entered, now you're going to go to Salesforce. So I already have my Salesforce connection here. I'm going to go create a new record. So the object type is going to be account. I'm going to create a new account. So the account name. Now if I just click on it, you can just see it gives me all the column values from the sheet which I've already chosen. So this is like very easy. I can just click from the option here. The account name is going to be the account name which I'm going to put there in that sheet. And then I'm going to select additional fields. So you can just see the fields. I'm just going to put phone number, account number, and shipping address. I'll just give. You have multiple fields here. You can select all the 50 fields and then fill them up. But just for the purpose of the demo, I'm just going to put phone number, account number, and the shipping street. We just keep it shipping street properly, and then apply. So now you have to fill these fields. So account number is going to be the account number from the Google Sheet. Phone number is going to be the phone number from the Google Sheet, and the shipping street is also going to be the shipping address from the Google Sheet. So this is how the flow is. This is a very simple flow. Just for the demo purpose, a very simple flow. Now we just go check it. So every time a new row is created, this is gonna be how. So I just save this flow here. I'm just gonna give say account creation in SF using G Sheets. Apply. This is gonna be saved here. Okay. So now I click on test. I'm just waiting for the test to start. Okay, so you can just see that it has 10 minutes time for the trigger event to start. So now we don't have anything, I mean, we don't have any value in those rows. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this value here and paste it here. So this is now a row has been entered, and then this driver is also synced. I just go here, wait to see if the trigger has come to the composer. Composer has accepted the trigger. We'll just give it a minute probably. I'll just delete this once more, and then go here. I'll just stop it for a minute. Refresh the connection properly. Okay, let's give another. To test it. I'll just put a new row here. I wonder why the test is not working. I'll just delete the sheet one here. Remove sheet one. Okay, let me just change the connections here. Not sure why the trigger event is taking some. Okay, it triggered. So probably there was some cache value there. So this test is finished now. So to make it more easier, I'll just take this ID here, copy this ID from here. I'll go to Salesforce, and I'm giving the ID here. Just to just search for the ID easier. You can see that I'm the account owner here, and just look at the details here. Whatever details you're given, Dawson, the phone number, the shipping address, and the account number, whichever I have given here from Salesforce has been, we are able to create an account in Salesforce. So all of these objects and these fields will be available. So you can just take, I mean, you can just fill in whatever details you want to, but for the basic things, I've just given shipping address, account number, and phone number, everything here. So this is with respect to creating a new field in Salesforce. So example, we'll just take same example. We'll just edit this thing here. In case there's an updated row, you update a particular row. So you fill the details of a customer, and then you think that you'll have to, okay, you fill the wrong details. Now you want to change it, and then that you have to reflect. You want that to reflect in back in Salesforce also. Though, just let's check how the updated row works. So I'm just gonna put. So it won't be create new record. You're gonna update a record. So the object type is gonna be account. We'll have to know that if you have to update an account ID is the primary key here. So you will have to have the account ID. In case for all the cases, you will not be knowing the account ID. So there's a way how you can retrieve this account ID also. So you have something called get records. So get records gives you all the records which match to a particular condition. So I'm just gonna get the records which match the condition account name equals the value which I have in my sheet. So you can add multiple conditions here to make your search filtered out and even more, what do I say, specific to a person. So I'm just, since there are very less accounts here, I'm just going with account name. Account name is very generic, I know. But if you want to go with specific criteria, I would suggest you to put multiple conditions here. You can just keep on adding conditions, like to see that maybe account name is this and account number is this, and then get that record. So you can add multiple conditions to make your search filter to be even more precise. So next is, I'm not going to get all the records. I'm just going to get only the first record because I know I just want the first record which matches this particular name. I know there's only one record, but ideally we would recommend to get all the records which match this particular condition, and you can filter upon based on the condition. You can just put an if condition here saying that get me all the account names which have the name John Doe, but if the business type of that account is it's a business account, then proceed. If it's not a business account, it's a personal account, don't proceed. So you can add multiple conditions here. So after you get all the records, you can also put the conditions, or but you can just filter it out here also. So I'm just going to get the first record here. So get records gives you all the fields present inside the records. Now I'm going to update the record. The object type is going to be account, and the account ID I will be able to get from the get records field. So now I am able to receive the account ID. So with the value I know, I'm querying to get the value which is required here. So this is also a way to get the record. So yeah, I'm getting the account ID here. And what is the thing I want to update probably? So the account phone number I'm going to update. Just click apply here. And let's keep it a constant value now. I'll just put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can just put constant values also. There's other options which you can do is called custom expression. You click on custom expression here. You have multiple options available, like dates, where you can add dates, minutes, months, everything. And in case of so you can also see that there's empty string first. You can do multiple operations with respect to string to date time. So there are multiple functions present here. Substring, it may not be a wide variety of operations and functions which you can do, but these are mostly sufficient to do much of the data transformations here. And data here will give you all the data which you have retrieved in your previous functions. That is, when you get data from example Google Sheets, or when you're getting data from Salesforce, all these things which you retrieve data from you'll be able to see in this data part. And operators are very simple math operators. Add, subtract, multiply, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. Now whatever you have to do here, example, I'll just remove this number here. I'll just put this ID, and operator you will just have to keep add and then +1 probably, id +1. So you can do all the operations here. So the syntax error is a number. So because this created by id has alphanumeric value in it, you can't add it to 1. So only when you get a syntax tick here, that's when you'll be able to put that value inside that a box there where you're going to fill it for account form. So this is, I'm just keeping a default value here. I'm just going to change it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So whichever row I'm going to update now is that row is going to be taken up, and then the record pertaining to the particular row name, account name present in that row is going to be updated with the phone number of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's just test this. I'm just going to click on test. Test has started here. I'll just go inside this page. Probably I'll make the account number. I just put account number. I'll just make it 00. So this is also going to be updated. So I've just updated this row now. This row has been updated and this saved. So this should trigger the flow here. Let's try updating. So this has been updated. It's processing now. Let's give it a minute to complete. That's finished. Let's save. So let's go check Eve Dawson's. I'll just refresh this page here for Eve Dawson, and let's check what her phone number is. So you can just check the details here. Phone number has been updated to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So instead of giving the phone number here as what I say a default value, you could also put the retrieved values from your sheet. Also, you can just update from the sheet, and then that's going to be updated also. So this is with respect to how you can create an account in Google Sheets with just when you create a new row and update a record based. When you updated a row in Google Sheet, you can also update how you can update this record. So I guess I do have other demos, but due to the time constraints, I have 15 minutes. I'll just show you those demos, but I'll not be able to build them from scratch. So let's look at a Slack integration flow, HTTPS connector. So, you have pre-built connectors and all these things, but when you don't have pre-built connectors and you want to call an API or something, I've used this trigger, and then I've gone with an API which I've created here, API connector, a very simple get requests, a very random API, get random details of people, like from, it's an open API, it doesn't have authentication and everything, but I can just show you how you can make that HTTP connection request. So I'll just open the system action. You just click on HTTP here. So a new HTTP connection, you can just provide the connection name here. What is the authorization type you want to go with? Basic authentication, 2.0 client creation, direct token API key. Based on that, you give your base URL, username, password, and then click on next, proceed, and then you connect your HTTP account. After you connect your HTTP account, then what is the method you want to go with and the path, and then I've given the sample response for the body, and I've just got the output here. So the output, you'll get multiple, when you ping it for the first time, you get multiple output. I've got the results, and then what I have done is I've tried to paste that HTTP requests output to Slack here. So how can you connect to Slack? So what are the options available in Slack? So I'll just I'll just do it. I've just already done it, but I'll just open it for you and then show you. So Slack, you can just see I've already made my connection. If you haven't make a new connection, you can just put the display name and then connect to your Slack administrator. That's it. So what are the available options you have in Slack? I would just show you. Just on the connection. So you can just add users to a channel, create a new channel if you want to, get user by the email, post message to a channel, send direct message to a user only, and send direct message to multiple users. So in this case, there's two things you'll have to remember. If at all you want to send a person a message here, you can see instead of channel name, I've given the ID here. So what you have to do is you can just put the channels. You'll have to get the ID of the channel. Just go inside Composer demo. So this is the channel I created just for the Composer demo part. So I just click on Composer demo here.
Abhinaya,
Yes, Sahil?
your Slack is not visible.
Oh, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I just shared the. Just give me a minute. Let me share my entire window here. So is it visible now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I just opened the Composer, the channel I've created just for this demo. I just click on this demo here. I just go down. There's something called channel ID. So this is the ID I'll be using to get to this channel. This is very simple. In case you want to go for an individual person, so I'll just take my account here. I'll just go to my view full profile. I'll just have to click on this and then copy member ID. So this is the member ID. I'll just paste it in. So this is the my member ID. So this is how I'll have to do it for an individual person. So just wanted to let you know about this. I'll just once more. Just a minute. Sorry. I'll just go to my Composer here. And since the channel name is going to be Composer Flow, I've just given the Composer channel name here and what are the details I'll want from. So here I've used a custom expression here. So I just put details of the random user and put what are the data I've got from that REST API. So you can just see info I've got from the REST API. I've got the email, gender, phone number, everything I've got it from this place. So I've just put the name, email, and phone number. I just give apply here. And then, so you can just give a bot name and an icon URL also. If you want to display the icon in your face, your photo, you can give that too. So I'll just test this. So I'll just go to my Composer flow here. If you can just see Composer demo, I've just at my name is here at 10:49 a.m. I've received the random user is sin alexis@harrisexample.com and I've got the phone number also. So this is a very simple example of how you can use the HTTP connectors here. But you can use either a very random, very simple HTTP connection here. But you can just proceed with two-factor authentication. I mean the OAuth authentication and the user client ID, passwords, and everything. This is a very simple this thing authentication I've used here, and I've got the results here. So this is with respect to how I've integrated HTTP request with Slack. I'll just show you this one more flow available.
Abhinav, sorry to interrupt you. Actually, we are running out of time. Okay, and we still have RPA as
Yeah,
well pending. So can we take this a bit later, like
yeah,
once
sure,
the
sure,
time
sure,
completes?
Piyush, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. So I'll just finish it off with the end slide here. I'll just have one more item to show. So some considerations while we use Composer is that we'll have to remember that Salesforce flows in Salesforce cannot be directly initiate triggers. Only record updations can be used as triggers, and the system platform events are yet not supported for triggering events, and then reusability of the Composer flow is not supported. You can't store the Composer flow at a place and then call it or reference it. And this task, there are 15 minutes, 10 minutes intervals, but you cannot schedule a task to run at a specific time or day. That is the one major consideration which we'll have to take into. and then you'll have to test it in the same environment which you're using for production also. There are no lower environments for testing, and there's no versioning support where you have a previous version and to store and then you have a new versioning. That's still improvement we'll need. And I think everything is using API calls here, and then every 10 minutes Salesforce is being pulled. So there's actually no real-time processing still not supported, but I guess that's all been worked up for the next releases. So these are the things I had to demo for you today, and thank you guys for keeping patient and listening to me. And I guess we're running out of time here, and then Sahil has to start up with the RPA part. I'll just leave it to Sahil here, and then probably we'll take up questions in the end of the session.
Yes, thank you so much, Abhinav.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Abhinya.
Thank you, Sahil.
All right. I'll just maybe pause for a few seconds to give everybody a refresher, and then we'll get started with RPA. In the meantime, I will go ahead and share my screen. So I'll be sharing my entire screen because there's a lot of components to cover. Okay, please tell me if this is visible to all and you're able to hear the audio as well.
Yes, right, we can.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to have you guys here. What better way to start the weekend early morning with some learning. So I'll be covering Mulesoft RPA in depth, where the agenda that I have for this meetup is I want to make sure that you guys understand the product, the platform that Mulesoft RPA has, how to build automations using this, and then have some ability to think on top of what we learn here and then come up with your own solutions. I'll be taking up all the questions towards the end of my presentation, so feel free to drop those questions in the chat. We will have them answered towards the end. Now let's begin with our session today. I will quickly skip through these statements because Abni has already covered it. Just want to highlight that this entire meetup for Mulesoft RPA is something that I'm doing in personal capacity. Whatever demo I'm going to be presenting is not something that you should replicate in your business use cases. This is for only learning purposes. And I also want to thank Piyush for setting this up and organizing this. Appreciate the help, Piyush. Little background about me. So I have been working in the RPA space for more than 5 years now. I am certified in the market leaders RPA tools that are available. Mulesoft RPA is something very recent to this market, so I've adopted this in Epicero. I currently lead the RPA engagements in Epicero. Let's move ahead. So a brief introduction about RPA and its components. Before I dive into this, I want everyone to take few seconds and just wipe clean all the information that you have about integrations. Everybody, I'm assuming, is from Mulesoft or Salesforce background. I want you to wipe that clean off, because RPA as a technology is completely independent of it. So if you were to relate it with existing information, it's going to be a bit tough to understand. Now, having said that, let's understand what RPA is. So the technology itself was derived to emulate human actions. That's the keyword here. What I mean by emulation is we mimic the human actions exactly how a human would perform. And these are done using components of these tools. And in other words, we are just replicating mouse clicks, keyboard presses, and other sort of interactions like how a human would. This captures the entire essence of RPA. In short, it's not a decision-making technology, right? It's not replacing something with a different piece of tech. It's a layer of technology which sits on the existing systems, and it emulates the behavior of an end user. Okay, that's what RPA is for. Now I'll give you an example to make it more clear. Everybody shops on Amazon, right? So if I were to order something from Amazon, as a user, I would have to open Amazon's website, log in into it, search for the product I want to order, add it into my cart, provide my credit card, debit card information, and then addresses and order it. That's how a process would look like for me to order something. Using RPA, that's what we will replicate. It will exactly copy the actions a human is performing, right from launching the website, logging into the website, and performing the remaining actions, right? I know there are APIs available for the Amazon platform, but that would become an integration case, right? Where you'll call an API to place an order. RPA does not do that. That's not the basic purpose of RPA. It replicates exactly what a human does. So for any RPA process, you need to understand what the manual process is like. The better you understand the manual process, the better you will be able to translate it into the RPA code. Now, the features of Mulesoft RPA, again, it's a low code, no code platform where you can just drag and drop existing functionalities onto your canvas and build your automation. You wouldn't have to write any code within Mulesoft RPA. This product itself is not just a studio where you develop these, it's an entire end to end management platform, I would say, where you can have the entire software lifecycle managed. You can have your development done in studio, you can have your testing done within RPA itself, and you can deploy your solutions within Mulesoft RPA itself. You wouldn't need something else. So it's an entire suite of products offered in this Mulesoft RPA package. You only have a single instance to manage all the environments. So you wouldn't have a different sandbox access. You wouldn't have a different test access or prod access. You only have a single instance for RPA. And internally, these environments are pre-built. You just have to promote your code from one environment to other. There's CI/CD that's baked into the product itself. Currently, you cannot connect to a external CI/CD platform. It's already embedded in Mulesoft RPA, and that is what it uses. All right. Now, if you were to access this, provided you have already a license available for it, you will have to navigate to this site. And this is the RPA manager, which we'll talk about in a while. And after you access RPA manager, you will be able to get all the other components right on the manager, which I'll explain. This currently, as far as I know, is a licensed product. So not really sure if you can play around with this with a free account. But you would have to talk to somebody in your organization who's the Mulesoft contact, and perhaps you can fetch a license for it. But Mulesoft, may decide to make it freely available for the entire world tomorrow. Lastly, I want to highlight that Mulesoft has come up with a migration for RPA, or you could also call it as an integration of Mulesoft RPA with the Anypoint platform, where they are moving the IAM of Mulesoft RPA to Anypoint. What I mean by IAM is Identity Access Management. Earlier, this Mulesoft RPA product was a standalone product, but now Mulesoft has decided to integrate it with Anypoint platform, and they are coming up with a migration for the existing customers who are using Mulesoft RPA standalone. But if you are a new customer who wants to procure an RPA license, start your journey, for you, if you are purchasing it after July, it's going to be an integration already available for you within the Anypoint ecosystem. It will not be a standalone product for you. So something to take note of. There is more information available for this migration at this URL. Let's move ahead. So from the Mulesoft RPA platform, there are 4 products which are offered, and we need to understand the functions and features of each product and how these products are utilized to build your business solutions using RPA. First and foremost, we have the Mulesoft RPA Manager. It's a cloud-based application, and this hosts your projects or in technical terms of RPA, your processes that you are building. It also hosts functionalities to maintain your software life cycle, right from evaluating a specific process on certain parameters. It also hosts the entire life cycle of evaluation till deployment. You can monitor your processes or bots that you have built for your organization right through RPA Manager. And you can also maintain accesses for users. So there's a lot of orchestration functionalities that are provided in RPA Manager. This is a suite where you manage, orchestrate your automations. Remember, it's a cloud-based application. The remaining three products are not cloud-based, and these are on-premise applications. So let's move on to the next one. We have Mulesoft RPA Recorder. It's a standalone software that you need to install on-prem. The basic idea of RPA Recorder is to record the events which a human user is performing on their laptop, virtual machine, whatever it might be. It captures those events and it is generating a solution design for you automatically. Now, this solution design is something that can be directly imported into our RPM manager or our builder, which is the development studio. So basically, RPA Recorder is to kickstart or give you an acceleration in your development journey. Okay, for you to use this product, you'll have to install it separately, run the product, and finally start performing all the actions live on your screen. And if I were to take the same example of Amazon order, if you perform those actions, the RPA Recorder will capture all the elements, the clicks, and the keyboard presses, and it will generate this design for you, which directly can be imported. The next product here is the RPA Builder. Again, a standalone installation. This is the development studio where your RPA automations are built. It must be installed individually on your on-prem systems, and it has a lot of tools through which you can build your automations. This is basically your development studio where you build and unit test the processes that you have built. There's also debugging capabilities and everything, a basic development ID provides you. All those functionalities are available in RPA Builder. Lastly, we have the Mulesoft RPA bot, again an on-prem system. This basically is a product that allows remote executions of your automations, because in the real world scenario, nobody is going to be sitting to trigger an RPA bot. We want remote executions. And to enable those remote executions on maybe a dedicated virtual machine that's sitting somewhere, you need to install RPA bot on that machine. You can configure your connection details, your proxies and everything to establish the connection between that virtual machine and the RPA manager using Mulesoft RPA bot. Okay, so in essence, this becomes a listener for the requests which are coming in from RPA manager. Okay, now that we have some understanding, of the various products and the features of each product, let's move ahead. So if I talk about, the capabilities of RPA, these are certain available functionalities that are there in the builder, which you can leverage to build an entire automation. So RPA can interact with files. You have email interactions available. It can prepare and transform data. It can automate a desktop application. It can automate a web browser based application. It has capabilities to interact with PDFs, Excel files. It has features to get text out of images. So it has a inbuilt OCR capabilities. That's optical character recognition, wherein you want to do something with images instead of having elements. You can use REST APIs within RPA Builder as well. You cannot create an API, however, you can call an API through Mulesoft RPA. And finally, it has an inbuilt connector available for AWS to process documents, invoices, and any sort of, scanned images. So there's an inbuilt connector for AWS specifically. All these things are already available in your builder, and there's nothing that you have to do to utilize them. Again, it's a low code, no code approach. You have to drag and drop, which we'll see in a moment. It currently does not support any coding augmentation, as in if there is no feature available in the studio, you cannot write an external code to augment the capabilities. You cannot build an external connector and then import back to the studio to utilize that. Whatever is available at this point of time, that's all you can leverage. But it also offers you the functionality to trigger a remote or external scripts, which can be in the form of batch files or remote executable files. So these are some capabilities of RPA. Now, I've given you the brief overview of the platform. Let's try to understand more from an architecture point of view of how this entire solution would execute for a real-time business use case. Now, as I mentioned, we are trying to emulate human interactions. Okay. For that to happen, I need to replicate this step exactly in the manner of how a human does. And the bare minimum requirement for that is an infrastructure on which this can execute. And that becomes the bare bones for RPA. You would have to have a dedicated virtual machine on which this is supposed to execute. That dedicated virtual machine must have all the applications installed, because the RPA bot is going to be interacting with those applications like how a human would interact with them. So you need to take care of installation and everything right within that dedicated virtual machine that you are targeting. The execution will run within inside the virtual machine, and when that automation is running inside that virtual machine, it is independent. You cannot log in into that virtual machine to visualize it. However, there is functionalities available in RPA manager to see the automation run live. Okay, the idea here is to let the bot execute independently on a dedicated virtual machine where we are not interfering with the bot's operation. Okay, so you have to take care of this. In today's demo, we'll be solving a business case in which we will see how this RPA process interacts with certain application, how we are achieving a business process using RPA. I have this neat little diagram available just to give you an idea before we start getting in the demo itself. So what we'll be looking at is log in into a Google Drive, and the bot will then download a PDF file from that Google Drive. We are going to read that PDF file, make some transformations with the data that is read from that file, and we are going to insert the data into a web application. We are capturing a screenshot after the data is inserted, and we will send out that document to our email inbox. And finally, we'll generate a notification as well on Slack. From a high level perspective, this is our base requirement that we are going to replicate. Okay, I think everybody is now on same page with me. Let's move on to understanding the product itself before I dive into showing you the demo itself. So what you see on my screen right now is the RPA manager that I talked about. This is the entire overview of the platform. And you will see there are multiple options available over here for you to orchestrate, manage your projects, and everything is contained within here. For this purpose, I will just tell you how we begin our journey if you have to create a fresh project. But then I already have the project pre-built, which we will switch to later on. So your journey will start here under process management. And here you will see an option. If you are a new user here, this would be completely blank for you. But if you're An existing user, you will already have these categories. So these categories are ways to cluster your processes based on a pattern. So I can create a new category for myself, and after that category is created, you can then create your first automation project. So I already have a category available for me. Once that is created, you open that category and you'll get an option to create a process inside that category. It will ask you for certain details that you'll have to fill. So let's create one process quickly. And it will ask you to assign permissions for the process that you are about to create. You can add new members of your team for this process. And the members that you are going to add for this process, only those members will have accesses to this. So let me give you an example. If I were to add Abhinaya, you will see an individual section created here, and you can very carefully filter out the accesses that you want to provide to your team members. There's option for advanced permissions, which are basically if certain person is allowed to push this project to a higher environment or not. So you'll have to select those. You can provide a description here for the process if you want. And if you click on save, this will create the first process for you inside RPA manager. That's where the journey of creating any RPA process begins. It must be first created in RPA manager. You cannot directly jump into the studio, which is RPA builder, to build your first project. Every project must be created within RPA manager. So now that I have created a new process called example, you will see this screen. This is a design screen. And if you notice, we are currently at the design stage of our implementation, and other stages, as I mentioned, are pre-built into RPA manager. We'll see these as well in a while. So our journey begins by starting with the design, where we'll generate or create a high level skeleton of the entire process that we want to automate using the options available here. So you can create new actions one by one, and using these functionalities, you can link them. You can provide some logical name for these. This is just a high level solution design that you are going to create within RPA manager. And if you remember about the RPA recorder, which I talked, you can start your automation journey by recording the steps first. Once that is completed, the output from RPA recorder is this exact diagram, which you can simply import. This diagram itself is called as BPMN, and that can be imported directly from the RPA recorder output as well. And you are allowed to make edits after you have imported the diagram as well. So you can delete something if you feel that's not required and have everything done here itself. Once you are satisfied with this design, you can move this to the next stage, which would be build. And to do that, you will have to click this publish button. It will ask you to confirm that, and let's release it to the next environment. And there you have it. I have successfully pushed my first automation project to the build phase. And only after it is pushed to the build phase can I now go to the RPA builder, which is a standalone on-prem development studio, and I'll be able to access this process from my studio. So let's see how to do that. You have an option here in studio that says repository, and let me refresh this repository. You will see the process that I just created in RPA manager will be visible over here. You will have to obviously connect to the RPA manager through RPA builder for it to establish that connection. I have it already done, but if you're starting from scratch, it will give you an option to connect, which would look something like this. You will have to provide the RPA manager address, which is similar to what you see here in the URL. and you'll have to provide a valid credential. That's it. So coming back, we have our first process push to build phase, and that's where the RPA builder comes into picture. If I double click on it, you will see the process that I've created visible over here with the same BPM and design that was created in RPA Manager. Now I can start building my automation using this. I have similar capabilities that were available in RPA Manager to edit the design in Builder as well. So I can add more boxes or logical steps in Builder as well. It's not mandatory to do everything in RPA Manager. All these functionalities can be leveraged by a simple left click, and you'll see all the options available for this specific piece, or you can drag and drop these from here as well. So you can build certain sections using these. And once you are satisfied, if you double click on any of these boxes that you see here, it will open up the definition of this box inside this window, which will have certain parameters such as workflow initialization, activity workflow, and workflow finalization. So this is the entire screen where you will start to build your granular level details to perform those activities like how a human would. Okay, there are 3 sections here. The logic of those granular activities would be contained inside the activity workflow. That's the center section. The first section, workflow initialization, allows you to initialize your workflow in case you want to have something prefixed globally before you want the automation to run. And finally, there is a section for workflow finalization, which will always execute. Now, depending upon whether your execution was successful or not, it will navigate to these certain sections. Now, this is simply a try catch block if you're coming from a coding background. So if your entire automation was successful in the above stage, it will move on to this successful section, and you can perform further activities as well. If you want to clean up something that you have, or you want to do additional actions based on the success result of your previous step. Okay. If you look at the top right section of your design center, you will see this option where it allows you to configure activity parameters. These activity parameters are environment variables that can be leveraged throughout your process. So let's start by adding one environment variable. You'll see these are the only possible options. You cannot create a custom variable that's not available in this list. These are the data types that you can leverage. So let's try to create a text variable. You'll have to provide a name to this. And you have to just click OK. The environment variable is now created. However, it will not be immediately available to be used within your workflows. To make it available for individual workflows, there is an option here, activity parameter, that will list all the environment variables you have created, and you have to just move it to the right section. Once you do this, only then the environment variable is available to be utilized inside a workflow. And you'll have to perform this activity for individual workflow that you have created in your design. Let's see that as well. So if I open the step 2 workflow which I've created, I will have to add that activity parameter again. So that's how you can, create environment variables in the studio and build your automation. Let's look at the toolbox. This is the developer's Bible. This is what you will use if you are developing the solution. All the activities or actions that you are going to be replicating are pre-built or available here itself. So you'll see there are components within this toolbox which allows you to automate any specific app which could be running on the desktop. There are checks that you can perform. You can control the flow of your process. There's document processing capabilities with AWS. This is the dedicated section for AWS. There are Excel operations that you can perform, file operations, and all sort of things. And we have operations available for mail interactions as well as web automation. And obviously we have variable operations. So using this becomes your, palette. If you are coming from an AnyPoint background, this becomes your palette from which you can utilize existing activities or actions and you leverage them to build the solution. Now, let's start with how a solution would look like from scratch. So if I were to take the example of Amazon itself, the start for me would be to launch Amazon itself. For that, I would require a browser, right? So you'll come down to web automation and you'll have this web session available. You'll see multiple browsers are available. In our case, let's select web session Chrome and double click to open this. You will see it will give me this window over here and I can provide any specific URL for it to launch. So let's say I want to launch Google. I just have to copy the URL, paste it here, and there are other options that you can customize and click OK. That's it. You will notice automatically after doing that, RPA Builder was able to launch Google, and now I have the screen presented within the tool itself. There are other activities that you can utilize here to build your automations. Let's say I want to enter something on the text field of Google. You have an option to click web element, which will perform a click action onto the web page that you have opened. So let's double click on it. Once you do that, you will see this option that says Open Browser Wizard. You click on that. It will again navigate you back to the screen where the application was already open. And if you see, if I hover my mouse over these individual elements, it's giving me a notification that it's able to capture it. Now, if I want to insert something on a specific text field, I will keep my mouse for that specific element hovered and press F2. You'll see the alert presented at the top right section as well. So press F2 will capture the HTML of that element that you have put your mouse over. And all the details of that specific element will be presented here. You will get all the HTML related details, which you can select based on your preference. It will also give you the X path or the complete HTML path for that element. And once you are satisfied, you have to just click this tick button. And that's how you will capture a specific element for an application to do this. Let's say after I've clicked that element, I want to write something on that text field. You will have an option available over here that says keystrokes to web element. So you'll utilize that and you'll open it again, perform the same actions, capture the XPath for it, click tick, and for keystrokes to web element, you will see additional setting within this dialog box that says what input do you want to provide. So let's say I want to type RPA here and click OK. I will additionally put a sleep here just to make sure that once I run this demo, we are able to actually see the bot enter those values. So let's put a sleep for 5 seconds. And that's it. Now, if I want to test or unit test this specific workflow, I have an option here, right, which says run workflow. If I click on that, it will execute this workflow which I've created. So let's do that and see the automation run live. You'll notice it is not able to, enter the text which we have built in our studio onto this text field, and that is okay. That situation will definitely arise while you're developing this. In that event, you will get an exception right in your studio to understand what was the reason of failure. So we'll wait for the exception to arise. See, you get an alert here that says it was not able to perform that action, and you'll notice suddenly this element that we have added here will be surrounded by this red alert, and you will see the exact message that says it's unable to locate the element for this specific case. Let's try to do it again. So sometimes if this does not work, there is an alternative for you to do, wherein you can simply go to the application itself, right click on the element, click on inspect. We'll highlight that specific element that you are interacting with, and you can copy the XPath of that element itself. And we can use the same XPath in our RPA builder. And let's test it again. And now it worked, right? So the point of this is you have to play around with the XPath of the element if you're doing a web browser based automation, and based on that you'll have to test step by step, and once you're finalized, that's how your solution will move forward. I hope that gives everybody a basic understanding of how this development works in the studio. Now I will jump directly into the demo that I talked about, and I briefly explain you how that is developed. But in the interest of time, we'll not be able to replicate from scratch. But rest assured, I'll try to explain all the points here. So this is our workflow which I've created. And this is similar to what we talked about. We'll start by going to Google Drive, download a PDF file from there, perform some data transformation on that, insert that to a website, send an email, and send a Slack notification as well. Now, if you look at these sections there, they're individually differentiated from one another. Along with this, I would also like to explain a new concept within RPA, which is human in the loop. There are events where in any specific business process that you're automating, there must be a manual confirmation or approval required in between that process. Like, for example, you are wanting to automate a process in which you're buying products, but the decision to whether buying or not is dependent upon somebody. You can include that input from that person within your automation project. Or for a different process where some other manual input is required by the time the RPA automation is running, you can leverage this user task option inside your automation. This user task option allows the RPA bot to pause until a human provides an input. So you can integrate a human within your end-to-end automation solution as well, which we will demonstrate here. We'll replicate that by accepting a MFA code for Google Drive. So I've already set it up. The bot will try to log into Google Drive, but I will be prompted for an MFA code, which I'll receive on my mobile. And you'll see me enter that MFA code live while the automation is running, and how this will work in the real world scenario, and how you'll notice how that information is passed back to the RPA automation, and the bot is then able to proceed further. Now, before I actually run this automation, I'll briefly explain the components that I've utilized here. This is our target application that we are trying to automate. And as you can see, it has multiple fields on the screen, which accepts information. And once I enter the information and submit it, you'll notice the screen changing a little bit. The fields available on this web page are changing in position. The orientation is different every time I click submit. So we're going to be automating exactly this situation and see how that is done. The information that we are going to be inserting here is available in the Excel file itself on this website. However, to make things a little more challenging, we will not be utilizing the Excel file. Instead, I have converted that Excel file as a PDF, and we will download this PDF from Google Drive and then insert the information here. The file is already available with me, just to give you what the content of this file looks like. So you'll notice this is the information we are dealing with, and this individual value must be inserted at the respective place in this website for it to successfully accept the input. Now that we have seen the PDF file, let's come back to our studio and understand the design. So I start the automation by deleting the existing files that are available locally on this VM, because remember, RPA automation runs inside our virtual machines locally. So everything that you perform, every file that you download is going to be available locally on that virtual machine. So I'm deleting that in case there's an existing file. And all these options are right available in your toolbox. You can search for it, or you can look at these headers and you will be able to find these activities inside that. You have to drag and drop these, and you will be able to customize these with these inputs. So I'm deleting the file here, in which I've given the directory path, which is my local directory path. And I've also provided the file name in this field. You can hard code these values, or you can also assign these values using this pin option and the activity parameters which we saw in our demo previously. So I can assign values from activity parameters as well instead of hard coding. But for this demo, I'm just hard coding these values. We will have a Chrome session open up, which will launch Google Drive. And I am going to be entering the information for username on that field, followed by password. The information for username and password is contained inside the activity parameter with a user account variable. So this is an encrypted way to store the information, because we don't want to hard code these values in our process. After it has entered the password, I will be prompted for an MFA code. And for that, you will notice I have created this user task, which can simply be added by left clicking on a workflow, and you will have an option that says append user task. So there are two types of tasks: bot task, which contains the information of how the process will navigate, and user task, which accepts input from a user. So inside that user task, I have added an environment or an activity parameter, which is an OTP, which I will receive from the human as an input. So let's check that as well. I have a variable already created here, right? And that's what I'm utilizing here. After the OTP is provided by the human, that will be entered on the screen in the next workflow, where again, I will add the OTP that I have received onto a text field and proceed to log in onto Google Drive. Post that, I will have to download the file from Google Drive, which I will demonstrate very quickly. Okay, so you see this file is already available here in the PDF form. I'll click this and do a download here. And these are all web operations that we saw in our demo earlier. That's how we will leverage the inbuilt actions that are there in the toolbox. We have also included a manage block here. This is a simple try catch block. Again, it can be found within your toolbox here. And it has 3 sections which are similar to your try, catch, and finally, I am performing an action to click a specific web element. And in case that web element is not found through HTML, which we just saw with Google, where it was not able to enter the keyword RPA, in that event, I am utilizing a search image option to perform a click. So it's in certain cases when your HTML is not recognizable or you're not able to come up with a way to perform a click or interact with the web element, you have options to perform clicks or read images as well. You can leverage that by searching for that image using the search image action here, and you'll have to create a specific image for that. To create an image, you'll have to start from scratch, and you will see this small window appear over here. This is going to be your target, and then you press F10. So I am essentially looking for an image that looks like this, and I'm looking for that image in this specific area. You can define the area, and that is what will be captured over here as well. You'll see the image has changed. Okay, so I'll click cancel here because I already have the image available that I want to click, which is the download button. And then it will download the file for me. Lastly, I will move the file into my local drive at that specific position using my move file action, where I've configured it to move the file from our downloads folder to a dedicated drive I have. And once these activity is done, we'll move on to reading the PDF file, performing some data manipulations on that DDF file, and then inserting into the web app. So let's look at that logic as well. So we are reading the PDF file using read PDF file action available over here. Again, you will have to configure it based on the directory and the file name. The output of that PDF file can then further be processed in preceding actions or succeeding actions. So for that, I have utilized string manipulations, string operations here. And if I open this, you will see there are pre-built options available here to make strings operations. And you can use these inbuilt options. There's nothing apart from it. So if you were to do something else that's not available here, currently that's not possible. So if I were to, let's say, find and replace something from a text, my input string becomes the data that I've read from the PDF, right? And if you click on this pin icon, you will automatically notice that the output from the previous action is available here, right? I read the PDF file in the previous action, and the output from it is already available that says read text. So I will utilize that, and then I can say what it needs to find and what it needs to replace. Okay, so this is what we are doing here. We are performing some operations on the text that we have read from the PDF to replace some data so that we make the data in a form which is accepted by the website. And we are writing the data back to a CSV file. Okay, for that, you'll have to utilize write to text file action here, drag drop it on this workflow and add your configurations. The text that you will write inside again can be achieved from the pin, and you will notice all the preceding steps that you have performed. The output for each step will be available inside this pin. So you can pick and choose which text you want to write inside the text file. Now my text file will be created. And from that text file, my next step would be to launch the website we just saw using the web Chrome session. I will click on a specific button on that screen, which will start the automation, and we are now able to insert the information in it. And because I know the file contains 10 records, my PDF file contains 10 records, I am looping those records. Again, you have a loop available over here. I'm looping those records from 1 till 10. Okay. And inside each loop, I am reading back the text that was available, which I just inserted in the previous step. So I am reading back the text from that file line after line, right? Because we have to enter a details one after the other. So I am using the read mode as single line. So at every given point of time, I'll be only focusing on a single line. And then we are again performing some regular expressions to further fix the data that is contained so that the website can accept it. And to perform regular expression operations, there's an option in the toolbox that says check regex. You can utilize that to give your regex expression here, and you will be able to work on the output of this action in the preceding steps. Again, via the pin action, you will see I have the output of the regex available over here as well. Okay, and there's some other information that I'm editing after I've read it line by line. And now I will start to insert that data into the website one by one. Now notice I have been talking about a single line in my use case, right? This is the line that I'm going to be reading, but the website has individual fields. So what I do is I break the individual fields and I convert this entire string that I'm reading into an array. Again, an action is already available in the toolbox for that conversion. You can use the strings to array, pass on the string value that you have received from the preceding steps, and you can utilize any delimiter or separator by which you want to split. Now this will give me a nice little array converted, and that array index will be the position that I will insert onto the web page. So I have a dedicated section for that. And here you will notice I am reading the value of an array for first position, and I'm inserting that into the website on this specific X path. And the input that I'm providing here is from the action that says read the first position of array. Okay, so that's how I will insert all the values on the website one after the other. Remember, I'll have to read the individual indexes of the array, and respective to that index, I will pass on this information onto that web page. Once everything is done, I will take a screenshot of my entire screen using the screenshot wizard that's available in the toolbox. And finally, I will utilize a mail session here. Configure my Gmail account for it to be able to send an email. The configuration can be done in the mail session screen, and you will have to utilize an action called send email, in which you will be able to provide the details to send this email to. There's an option to add attachments as well, wherein you can provide the exact attachment you want to send, which is my local path of this machine. And this is the demo file I'm attaching. And that's it. That's the entire process that we are going to be seeing. Before I run this demo, I also want to show you how we integrate this with the Composer, because that's going to be my trigger point, and we'll see it live directly from Composer. This is something that I've built in RPA, right? Once I am done with my development, I can publish this back to the RPA manager using this upload project button. Okay, it's giving me an error at this point of time because this process, which I'm demoing out right now, it's already in the production phase. So let's move on to process manager and see that process. So here is the process, and you will notice it's already pushed to the production stage. You have the option to put it back to a lower environment right on the RPA manager screen as well. And then there's other configurations that I have done for it to be available within Composer. That currently is something that I'll maybe take up at the end of this session, but I want to run this for everyone so that everybody can see this in action live. So let's switch back to Composer. In Composer, as Abhinay explained, I will define a trigger, which is a 15-minute schedule because we are just demonstrating this. Inside here, you will have the action available for Mulesoft RPA. You will have to provide a connection first, which will be your tenant ID, which is exactly what I told you earlier. This is going to be your URL that you will have to provide in Composer, and you'll have to create an API key, which can be done in RPA Manager itself under user management. I will not be able to show that because that's confidential information, but you will be able to create a user API key under this section. So once you configure that connection, it gives you a list of all the processes that are available in Composer that can be triggered from here. So I've already selected the process, which is this Mulesoft Meetup demo, right? And after the process is done, I want to utilize some response from that process. So I'm using the response in this process. And I'm passing that information to Slack, which we already saw an hour back. So I'll delete this step. I have the configurations already done. And there is the Slack message. Let's start the automation in a while, and so that you can see everything live. I will go ahead and delete this file as well from my local desktop. I will minimize RPA Builder as well because that's not required any further. Right. So I will click on this test button and it will start to execute the automation in a while. Remember, I talked about receiving an MFA code. So I will receive that on my mobile and I'll show you how I can pass that information for the bot, which will be waiting for that input. Now, this is exactly how this would appear in a real-time production level use case. So let's start the automation. And there you have it. You will see the RPA automation has started. I just entered the username. Whatever is happening on my screen right now is all being performed by the RPA bot. And there you have the MFA code, right? So I will navigate to RPA Manager, and under Team Tasks, I will have a task allocated to myself, which I will assign to my user, and then I can provide the OTP which I've received here. Okay. Now let's switch back to this screen, and you will notice the OTP which I've provided there. It will be flown automatically to the RPA bot, and the RPA bot will be able to move ahead. So that's how you can integrate your RPA solutions to have a human inside of your automation. You will notice the bot has downloaded the file, and this is a notification message that says the file was downloaded. Now it will be processing that PDF file and all the string operations and the regex operations that we saw. It's going to perform that. And as soon as it is completed, it will launch the RPA challenge website and start entering the information one after the other. So you saw it paused for a while on that screen. That is something which is native to RPA itself. It takes sometimes for some element it takes a while. It's not that something I've put asleep inside the code, because it's directly interacting with the web elements. It might take few additional seconds than anticipated. So it was able to fill the form and get the certificate after the completion, and it should be following up by sending an email. Okay, there's something I want to point out here. So we notice we have received an error here in our composer flow. The reason for that is there is a specific limit for the RPA process to execute when you are calling it through composer. The limit here is 3 minutes, which is specified here as well. So if you have a RPA bot that takes more than 3 minutes to complete, you cannot use that within the composer flow inside a single flow. You will have to break down your flow into two separate flows. From one flow, you will have to execute the RPA bot. From the other flow, you will have to poll for the output of the RPA bot. But just to make sure that this demo runs again, we will try to test it once more. And hopefully this time it will complete within 3 minutes. In order to save time, I will be already on the screen to provide the MFA. So it completed a lot quicker this time, expecting it to finish the composer flow as well. All right, looks like this time it was able to complete everything. So you'll see the notification also arrive on composer that the test was finished. And I have a message available in Slack as well. This is the message that I've passed from composer that says the web form was successfully filled for file name. And this was our file. And there are some technical details available in this message as well. And this is what you can customize in the composer flow. Let's look at our inbox. So there you have it. We also have received a successful email from the RPA bot, and we have the file as an attachment. Okay. Well, that will be all from the demo side. I will take on the questions next. Anybody who has any questions, feel free to speak up. But from a demo perspective, that will be all from my side. I hope this session was useful for you guys, both from a business perspective and from a development perspective, to understand how these things collaborate. Manas is saying, how can you show the test phase once? Do you mean the test in Composer or the test phase in RPA? In RPA, okay. So remember, if I have to execute this process via Composer, I cannot have this process in the test phase. I need to push this to production. If I only have to test the RPA bot, I can do it from the test phase as well. So for this demo, the bot is already available in the production phase because I am triggering it from Composer. But if I only want to run the RPA standalone, I can move it back to the test phase. Now it's available in the test phase, and you can start the test just for the RPA bot alone. For you to start a test, you will have to first create a new test plan inside here, and then you will be able to click the start test button and run the automation. To show that, I will push this back to production stage because I have a configuration already created there. This is a similar configuration that you'll have to create in test environment as well. So let me edit the configuration which I've created. You'll have to provide a name. You will have all the environment variables called as activity parameters here, and you can pass a value of an activity parameter right from your manager screen. Okay. You will have to assign a user in the user task, because for our demo we had a user input, but in case you're building an automation where no user is involved, you can skip this. From an execution standpoint of view, you will have to provide the login details of the virtual machine where your automation is running. So this is my account. An RPA manager is going to be utilizing this authentication while it is sending a trigger to the bot to execute. And finally, you will have to also select a specific dedicated VM on which your automation should run. So the one that I have selected is the name of my computer here. These are some configurations that you'll have to add, and only then you will be able to either perform a test in RPA or have a production configuration created. I hope that answers your question. We can publish this RPA process after building it in RPA Builder to run from cloud-based instance like EC2 perhaps. Absolutely, Sagnik, you can do that. So how that would function is you would have a dedicated EC2 instance on which you will have to install the RPA bot. Remember, I told you about the RPA bot. It's a standalone product which establishes the connection with RPA Manager. And that's a listener for RPA Manager. Whenever RPA Manager sends in a command that I need to run the process, RPA bot receives it and starts executing it. So we'll have to install the RPA bot on the EC2 instance, do some configurations in the RPA bot, and then your automations can run inside that virtual machine. Here is how that would look like. The software itself is called RPA bot, and you will, once you install it, you will have a configurator here. Okay, I will hide that because in the above section, there are configuration details specific to the RPA manager tenant that we own. But you can configure those details here, and along with that, you can provide other configuration details like proxies and everything within this section. Once you have that, there's option to test your connection, and if the test is successful, that RPA bot will be visible over here in RPA manager. And in your configuration, you will have to select that specific virtual machine, which would be an EC2 instance. I hope that answers your question, Sagan. Multiple invoke is possible for RPA flow, which is running in single bot. Yes. So if I understand correctly, you're saying, what if you want to trigger the bot again and again? So like from Composer, if I were to trigger the bot while it was running in the background, you can do that. RPA manager itself has a mechanism to queue these requests. So the requests will be queued one after the other. As soon as your VM is available, it has completed the execution of the previous step. As soon as your VM is available, it will start with the next queue request. But you cannot have parallel executions done on the VM. There is an option to do parallel execution as well, which requires a separate connector altogether, which is not in the scope of this meeting. But yes, if parallel execution also is possible, but you will have to purchase a licensed connector outside of Mulesoft to do that. Any further questions, anyone, feel free. I think that will be all. I hope everybody learned something new today. That's all from my side. You've been a lovely audience. I wish you a nice weekend, everyone. Piyush, I think we are good here.
Great. Thanks a lot, Sahil. I think it was a great session. Right. I mean, I know like it gets extended. I'm sorry for that to everyone, but yes, I think it was worth it because both of the topics like RP and Composer, they are very new and they are very trending as well. So it was a great learning. I know like we cannot complete everything in an hour, but yes, I at least we get some idea like how exactly it works and how it can benefit us in our internal projects as well as the client project as well. So that's it. I think if we don't have any further questions, we can feel free to close the session, right? Thanks everyone. Thanks Abhinay and Sahil and all the audience. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a
Thanks
nice
everyone.
weekend.
Happy weekend, guys. Bye bye.